Welcome to A Dose of Feel Good. I'm your host, Whitney Bischoff, and today we are talking about if you feel like a passenger in your own life, small dose, breathe in. You can see full show notes at doseoffeelgood.my.canva.site. Now let's dive into today's episode. Welcome back to another episode of Dose of Feel Good. We are bringing you another episode in our series based on our stickers. So if you have not checked those out over on our Etsy store, highly encourage you to do so. I feel like we all sometimes need the reminders that we're all just trying to figure it out. But the positive piece is that there are so many good reminders that we're all in it together and that there's just so much good in the world. And that's what this series is all about. But our topic today is if you feel like a passenger in your own life, small dose, breathe in. And I am really looking forward to talking about this topic because I feel like sometimes, or at least lately, I feel like I'm just kind of floating and, questioning, what am I doing? Where am I going? What's the point of all of this? And I feel like a lot of us are definitely in that space. And I don't know if we get to our 30s and we're like, what is happening? Where are we going? But I also think we get stuck in this mindset that this is as good as it gets, which is wild because it's never as good as it gets, right? I remember being a lot younger and thinking that, which is so wild because there was so much left to experience that I just didn't even see how magical it could be. But we do get stuck in just that day to day. And so it feels like we're just a passenger of our own life. And that's not a fun place to be in. And so we float through life, I feel like, in survival mode, letting life happen to us rather than stepping into the driver's seat. And when we let life just kind of happen to us, it's because we're just trying to get by day to day. And that can be the reality. But the beauty is that, we can choose to move from the passenger seat into that driver's seat. And it just takes one movement, or our topic today, breathing in and taking life by the horns and going for it. And I think we come up with a million reasons why it can't be us, right? So we roll with the punches, whatever that might look like, whether it is literally that life is punching us in the face, or even just the day-to-day, we just roll with it because that's what we feel like we have to do, rather than, again, taking life by the horns and pursuing what lights us up inside. And we all know what those things are that truly bring us so much joy. But sometimes it feels like we just have to do the day-to-day, whether that's for financial reasons, whether that's we've come to be conditioned to that's what's expected of us. But we all know there are these things that truly bring us so much joy. And I think it takes a lot of courage to jump into that driver's seat rather than just going about our day-to-day in the passenger seat and floating through life when we're like, what is the point of all of this? Well, the point is that there are these things that light us up, and that, I think, is what drives us each and every day and what our purpose is for being here and the impact that we get to have and all of those really, really fun things. But I think the challenge is that it takes time and it takes energy. And so oftentimes the easy route is for someone else to steer that direction. And it takes a lot of effort to make those decisions, move in that direction. And so we lack the opportunity of stepping into everything we were made to be. It's just sometimes easier. It's not necessarily where we want to be, but it is sometimes the easier action. And so rather than taking the chance, we sit in that space. And so we feel like we're a passenger. And so we're going to challenge ourselves to step into what's made for us now, because we owe it to ourselves to give ourselves that joy and that passion to live our lives to the fullest while we have the opportunity to do so. And I know I've mentioned this multiple times that we don't have forever. And I think it's giving ourselves the opportunity to, jump into the driver's seat, because we're freaking awesome and we should be living that way. I want to highlight this with a couple of different stories. Obviously, as I'm speaking in this way, I think it's moving into this like almost diva attitude internally and reminding ourselves that I bring more to the plate or more to this space maybe than what I'm doing right now, because I think oftentimes we don't give ourselves enough credit. And I think when we jump into this space that we know we offer more than maybe what we're doing right now, if we fully lean into those things that we're passionate about, it's so much easier to drive forward, right? To really give ourselves to those spaces. I was talking to a friend recently, and every time I talk to them, I just get so excited because I'm talking about the podcast, or I'm hoping to write a book related to the podcast, or just all of those fun things. And even just the moments where I feel like there's so much more I can offer. There's so many more people that I can impact if I'm just given that opportunity. But I have to take the steps in order to do that. But I was talking to them and I was saying, I was just hoping that this, really takes off, or XYZ. And they were talking to me about, the next thing that they do, it's going to be either, writing their own books or whatever. But every time we're talking, it's really focused on these passion projects and these identities that light that soul on fire. And, I think we can manage both sides of it, right? The pieces that we rely on for survival, for financial means, for, those day-to-day pieces, but that doesn't have to be our whole identity. And so finding those things maybe outside of our day jobs or the things that we do rely on, to also give ourselves that passion and those things that bring us so much joy. And I think that allows us to move from a space of feeling like we are passengers in our lives to really owning those moments, because we do have more that we can offer and bring to the plate. And so having that balance of what we are required to do in order to survive and live, but then also breathe in those opportunities that we can lean into, what sparks so much joy in our lives. And I think when we take the opportunity to move from that survival mode, it's so freeing. And so we have to choose to break free from that, though. We have to choose to actually move from the passenger to the driver's seat. And so, I want us to really take a second and breathe in and just go for it. And I think the impact of that is asking ourselves, what could happen? And I think when we do that, sure, could it blow up in our face? Absolutely. 100%. I think 99% of the time, it probably will. And I think that can be scary, especially for the anxious folks out there. But also, I always say, but what if I didn't, right? There's always going to be that pang of regret. And I never want to live in the space where it's like, what if I don't do that? What if I don't follow those things that make me so excited and passionate, and all of those things that bring me so much joy and fulfillment? Because I think once I choose to do that, and all of the things that could happen, right? If we move from a space of, if it blows up in my face, okay, one, it's going to teach us some really great lessons that we can learn from those moments. But the flip side of that, if it comes out wildly successful beyond our wildest dreams, it shows others the possibility of, if they take the wheel and they follow the things that lights their soul on fire, they can do those things too. And sometimes they need to see other people being able to do those things for them to want to do that, right? To want to take control and breathe in and go for it. They need to be able to see that. And so it takes us choosing to be brave. It takes us breathing in and telling ourselves that we're capable of more than we even know. And I think knowing that the future version of us is going to be proud of us for taking those chances, for taking that chance on ourselves. And even if the worst case scenario happens, we're still going to be okay. And we can be proud of ourselves for breathing in and taking that chance and allowing ourselves the opportunity to really lean into what lights our soul on fire. And I know once I've started to do that, my life just has so much more joy and meaning and purpose. And even when I question those moments where I'm like, am I just floating here? Because that does happen. Even when I have moments where I'm super excited about what I'm doing, I still am like, what is the point of all of this? But it allows me to kind of fall back on really acknowledging all of these really great things that I'm doing and that I have taken that chance on myself. And I will continue to do that because I can see what happens there. I think the harder piece of this and the kind of jolt of reality is asking yourself, if you were to step back, really step back and ask yourself if you have kids, so if you have kids, siblings, or even your parents, would they want more for you than where you are right now? So those people that, are really looking up to you or want so much good for you, would they want more for you than the space you're in right now? And we're going to talk about, a lot of the things that we hide. If they truly knew where you are and what you could be, would they want more for you? And that's a hard question, but if the answer is yes, we're going to breathe in. We're going to breathe in right now and trust ourselves. We're going to believe in ourselves. And I want you to let yourself take the wheel and make it happen. Make it happen, whatever that more for you looks like, whatever taking the wheel looks like. And if you're like, I have no idea what that means, we're going to give you some tools here. But there are so many things that bring out that joy that, again, light our inner souls on fire. And if we want more for the people around us, we owe it to ourselves to bring that same passion to ourselves. And I want us to give ourselves that opportunity, that space, and that bravery to actually pursue those things, because it can be a game changer, and we can balance what is needed to survive with those things that bring us all of that joy and light and spark. And it will encourage those around us to actually do that as well. And it's going to encourage those people that we hold so dear to not be passengers in their lives either. And I think that can be really powerful. It brings back that ripple impact that when we choose to do that, other people believe they can do it too. And I think that's just a really cool philosophy, and spreading that feel good, which is literally the whole point of the podcast, and really spreading that feel good energy. But how do we actually put this into action? So a handful of steps here. So first, I want you to really take a second and ask, what kind of space am I in right now? Am I in the passenger seat, or do I feel like I'm in the driver's seat and I'm in a good direction? In whichever space that you're in, I want you to also ask yourself, where do you want to be, right? What direction do I want to go in? And what does that look like in a dream world? And how do I get there? We're going to put some actionable steps to that. The second piece, I really think it's powerful to reconstruct our inner dialogue. So how we talk to ourselves matters. And so really telling ourselves that I trust the decisions that I make. I believe that I can get to whatever that end goal looks like, and that I'm going to trust that if I take that chance, whatever happens, I can get through it. I am capable of working through that. And so being able to talk to ourselves in that way, and as cheesy as it sounds, if you have to write it down and stick a sticky note on your mirror every day, or have a note as a widget on your lock screen so you are talking to yourself in a positive way, do those things because it matters. On the same note, I think it is also helpful to have that external validation and support. So the third thing, surround yourself with cheerleaders, those people that are encouraging you to follow whatever that dream and passion looks like. And those people that are genuine about it. I have found the people who encourage me the most are often in the least likely and most unexpected places. But they are the people that I want to continue to surround myself with because they remind me of what I'm wildly capable of. And those are the people that I highly encourage you when you are doubting yourself, when you want to move from that driver's seat to the passenger seat, they are going to kind of hold you accountable and keep you in that space where, no, we're going to make those wild dreams possible, and keep us moving in that direction. Which on that note, our last piece, keep going, even when it's hard, because it will be hard. There will be plenty of obstacles. Keep going, and give ourselves that safety net, those reminders that we're going to face obstacles. It's going to be hard. We're going to face those setbacks. It might blow up in our face, but we're going to keep moving towards those things that light our soul on fire. Give ourselves that safety net, hang in there, and continue to pursue and make it possible. And knowing that other people are going to need that encouragement for them to follow the things that give them that encouragement as well. So that's going to wrap up our episode of the day. So as a reminder, if you need that sticker, that's that, piece of, I'm not going to be a passenger anymore. I'm going to jump into the driver's seat. I'm going to take these deep breaths and encourage myself to keep going. We do have stickers out on our Etsy store. As always, continue to share this episode if you feel like it's something that someone close to you needs to hear. That's what this is all about. We want to share these feel-good moments out into the universe. Otherwise, until next time, have a great week. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you are feeling ready to conquer the week and let your impact ripple out to the world around you. Let's connect on Instagram and Threads at Dose of Feel Good Podcast. If you're loving the podcast, I'd love it if you'd hit that subscribe button and leave a review. Until next time, share your own dose of feel good and never underestimate the power of positivity.